The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Let's go! What's that? Game time! Game time! It's gonna be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
All right. I cut off that intro because Alabama is no longer the champion after Clemson just won this college football playoff 2016 national title game. And this is Football to the Max. I'm your host, Sean Garmer, welcoming in Mr. Randy Isbell and Gary Vaughn. Guys, what a game we just witnessed.
Wow. Can Clemson and Alabama just play every year?
Yeah, I know people just complained about it. Oh my God, rematch. Well, you got the rematch and it was even better.
Yeah, and thinking back, I mean, my God, I can't think of a national championship game as exciting as this, maybe since that Texas and USC matchup.
Yeah, there were some similarities to that game too, and it's crazy how it started and how it ended. It's amazing stuff here. I thought Alabama was going to wind up running away with it at first for a while, and then all of a sudden Clemson comes back, and geez, you couldn't ask for a better ending than what was witnessed though. Like 1 second left, they score that touchdown. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game that I found really exciting, but I'll be honest, when we started this game, I kind of said to myself, well, I definitely probably got my pick wrong, and this is going to be boring. This is going to be one of those games where I'm going to sit here and think, oh, no, Clemson can come back, and then I'm going to sit here 28-0, and I'm going to say, okay, I can change it back to something else on TV. That didn't end up working that way. I'm so happy it didn't, and Clemson, I mean, they kind of, showed us that, they're not pretenders. They were the team that we kind of thought they could be. And Alabama, I think they're in a state of shock right now because I think for a little while there, they really felt like they had this game in their hands, and they did, honestly, for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just kind of shows not only just the greatness, obviously, of Deshaun Watson and how he was able to rally the troops in the fourth quarter and make that big comeback, but just the fact that, having the freshman quarterback at Jalen Hurts really did hurt Alabama in the end. The defense played extremely well. Bo Scarborough had that big touchdown early, and like you guys said, it looked like Alabama was going to run away with it. But unfortunately, Hurts just could not get that offense to maintain its momentum. Had a lot of bad throws in this game, and instead of being able to put them away, he kind of let them stay in it for a little bit. Now, he led an amazing drive there in the fourth quarter to retake the lead before Clemson comes back and wins it at the end. But unfortunately, this middle part of the game, he really showed his inexperience, and that probably cost them a back-to-back national championship.
Didn't Scarborough get hurt too?
Yes, that also does not help the situation. But when you have Hurts go 13 of 31 for 131 yards, I mean, yes, you would have liked to have been able to run the ball a lot more, but obviously Clemson just went, okay, you're not running anymore, and we're going to make Hurts beat us, and he was just unable to.
Yeah, exactly. And, Scarborough was the guy that really, I think, did kind of change this game a lot. Now, I'm not saying he's the only reason why Clemson was able to climb back in this thing, of him being out, but I think it definitely showed in the first half of this game that Scarborough was controlling things. He was able to give Alabama's offense that extra boost that they needed when Jalen Hurts was not able to do everything he wanted to do. And so, I mean, that just kind of proves that there are key components of this game that were not there to its full potential. But at the end of the day, I mean, I really think it was the tale of two different halves, and Clemson really found their mojo just a little bit later than they wanted to. And that's what's exciting about what they did here. But at the same time, take nothing away from Alabama. I mean, they did lose one of their better players, but they still rallied. They still had a good defense, and they were still leading towards the end of this game. I mean, it took everything they could. I mean, that touchdown that, Randy just talked about when Jalen Hurts just rushed up the middle, you almost thought that was the gut punch and maybe even the final punch of this game. I kind of thought to myself, I don't know. I really don't know if Alabama's, defense is going to give up enough to let Clemson come back in this one. And, and everything fell in the right way for Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly did. I think you got to give a lot of credit. I was going to ask this question before we got there, but do you think Lane Kiffin not being here makes a difference on those drives where Jalen Hurts is just throwing the ball away? And I could, the announcer were kind of making allusions to, well, this is what Sarkisian is calling. He's calling it safe so that he doesn't make mistakes. And he's kind of being told, okay, well, if it's not there, I'll just throw it away instead of trying to make a play or whatnot.
You could possibly use that as an excuse, but I don't remember a time where I looked at Jalen Hurts and went, he's that great of a quarterback right now. Again, he's a freshman. We're used to these freshmen and sophomores doing ridiculous things. He's a decent quarterback, but it's never been like under Kiffin he was lights out, and now here he is struggling. I do think that the game plan was a bit safe, and that could have been why it was his first game there. But you saw in that last drive when they finally were able to say, okay, we have to do some crazy stuff. They opened the playbook a bit different, and even the biggest pass of the entire game for Alabama wasn't by Jalen Hurts. But yes, I think the game plan might have been a bit safe because it wasn't Lane Kiffin. So I think your argument is true.
And it's just a sad situation when, this kind of stuff takes place because of the fact that you got these, like I said, some of these key components that are not there. What's the real matchup? I mean, let's think about that. What if Lane Kiffin was a part of this game? Do you get such a better offensive production from Alabama that Clemson cannot get back in this game where it's just not equal? So I think that's a bummer. I kind of hate this in these bowl games. We talk about ad nauseum how things change. A bowl season is not like the regular season. And even in the biggest game in college football, it takes effect. And I think it sucks. I really, really do. And I get it. Lane Kiffin deserves the time, and he's got a new gig. He's got to go do his business. But at the same time, it just sucks that we have this, and then people can point to that exact situation and say, well, that's why Alabama lost. It's the only reason Alabama lost. Clemson, if they would have had Lane Kiffin, you would not have had a national championship. I hate that kind of stuff because I think Clemson earned every bit of what they got. And I just don't like those question marks. I just kind of hate them. But I get it. It's part of the game. It's part of what happens in college football. Another big thing in this game, too, is what do you guys think about? I mean, I think the referees didn't really get too much, involved in this game. They had a lot of instant replays to look at when it comes to catches. We also saw quite a bit of pass interference when it came to the Alabama defense, which really gave Clemson some life in this game.
Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I think they missed some calls, and they were a little ticky-tack on the other. I think, honestly, the officiating wasn't the cleanest it's been, for sure. I don't think either team can really use that as an excuse, because I do think that calls were missed on both sides. There were a few times where an Alabama player didn't turn around and didn't get called for it a couple times where I thought, yeah, okay, maybe that's a little weak. But for as crazy as this game is, and I even said it in our group chat that the last play being scored on a pick play, just the pick play in general just drives me crazy. Yes, I don't think it was illegal, based on the way the rules are, and I have zero answer as to how to fix it. But just watching a wide receiver being able to just run right into a cornerback and basically screening off that entire section of the field where I could have thrown the touchdown pass, it feels a little dirty to me, but it's in the rules, so that's how it's going to go. But I would like to just leave it with what happened on the field. And yes, the officiating wasn't perfect, but I don't think it was one-sided either.
Yeah, I was going to mention, it's just there was a call early on where I think either Gallman or one of the receivers was hit really hard in the head. And, they didn't call that. I mean, there was so many during the game. You're going to miss them. You're not going to get them all, especially in college games where you got officials from a different conference that don't see certain things. It's just I don't think we can totally call it on the officials, I think, because like Randy said, there was calls missed on both ends.
And the commentators never help with this situation ever either. There was a play really early on in this game where a replay showed that there was a face mask, like in a pile. Running back was going into the line, got tackled. There was a slow-mo instant replay of a crazy angle that showed the face mask, and the commentator's like, "Oh, how'd they miss that?" Well, if you zoom out, there's probably 8 guys around this thing, and how are the referee going to see that? So, obviously, and that's the day and age. If you go back and you add this kind of technology to any national championship game, it's going to be exactly what we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the reviews took too long, especially that one at the end of the game. It's like, why? You're reviewing something so that Clemson gets well, the worst thing is they'd have to re-kick it again. I mean, nothing would have gone Alabama's way at that point. Why are we wasting 10 minutes doing that? That's just insane to me. But yeah, some of the reviews took too long. It was about 4-hour game, so it wasn't, I guess, any longer than most college football games are.
But it felt like it.
Oh yeah.
Until the fourth quarter and the fireworks started going on, this game drug on for a while.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So I mean, what do you guys think about? Do you think that this helps Deshaun Watson's draft status at all? Is this are we hearing Cleveland Browns #1 pick take Deshaun Watson next year? Not just because of this game, obviously, he's been great for a while, but I don't think a lot of people were saying, oh, he's the #1 pick, guy. You go and win a championship and anybody could have thrown that pass or whatever, but taking that whole game into effect, winning the championship like that, does that take your draft stock so much higher now where you're saying we're looking at if not one, at least a top 5 guy, whoever's there that needs quarterback, we're taking him.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just for the fact that obviously teams are going to do all of their homework and check everybody and they have their game plan figured out. But now you're going to get the pressure from all of the fan bases. Honestly, I think if Cleveland really likes Watson and they think that he could be the quarterback of the future, I think before this game they were thinking they could still trade out of the #1 pick, get a lot of draft picks, and then get Deshaun Watson in the middle of the first round and add up a lot of extra draft stock. And because that's what the Browns have been doing the last 2 or 3 seasons, is really trying to build a nucleus of young players. And this would have been a great way to do it. Now, a game like this and all of the attention on Watson is definitely going to bring up the draft stock. And then, of course, because he's a quarterback, it gets ballooned up into the top 5, whether it's deserved or not. So now, instead of being able to trade out and get him at like the 15th pick, they may have to think about overdrafting and taking him number 1 overall.
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, this national championship victory, the way that he won it, it really makes him more of that sexy type pick. If I'm a GM, I sit there and I do evaluate all those different options that I have. What teams need a quarterback? What teams are actually interested in him? And which teams, would run a scheme that would fit him best. So you've got to evaluate all those different options. But it definitely does make you more nervous. It makes you more on the edge of your seat thinking that, you may have to actually use your top, pick. You can't trade out of it if you really do want this guy. I think he had an excellent national championship game. I think he had an excellent year. He's doing fine. I'm still a little bit leery of this guy when it comes to the pro game. He could probably prove me wrong. I just am still a little nervous. I don't know that I see all the mechanics that really prove to me that this guy is ready to be a total, starter, an elite starter in the NFL just yet. But I think he's an interesting case, and, who knows? I mean, this guy could come in and prove me completely wrong, but I still don't know if he's going to jump up that high. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but you got, 2 teams right there drafting 1 and 2 that, I mean, Cleveland's got like 20 quarterbacks, but they could still take another one. If not, San Francisco, certainly, with whoever the heck is going to be their coach, perhaps wants to marry themselves to the hot number right there, the hot guy coming out of college, very much like, we've seen in Tampa Bay, in Tennessee, in Philadelphia, in possibly it works out for the Rams as well, the Cowboys. It could work out for the 49ers that way too. I mean,
yeah, very true. What about Scarborough? Scarborough's coming out too, right? He's a senior, I believe. Correct? Am I wrong on that? Yeah. I was just wondering, because I thought he was a senior. I thought he had already announced.
I think Mike Williams is a junior, too, so he could go.
Scarborough's a sophomore.
Oh, yeah, he is a sophomore. Okay, so he's going to hang around. Okay. I just cannot remember. I think I'm getting confused with Ohio State's receiver or something. But there's some guys, that played in this game that, are really enticing when it comes to the NFL. And, definitely, like I said, Deshaun Watson, definitely got to look at him as being one of those big guys, and I think it's important to look at these guys and kind of, evaluate for what you think they're worth. But I don't know. I think, we saw Williams play really good for Clemson tonight. I mean, wow. I think he did an excellent job, and that game-winning touchdown definitely helped that kid's chances on being a small but effective receiver. I'm blanking on his name right now. I'm trying to actually look it up. Renfro, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't believe I forgot his name.
Yeah, the guy they were saying is too small. He can't do this and he can't do that. Man, that dude was huge in this game.
Yeah. One of the other guys, and I'm really curious, and you'll have to, Randy, you may have to look this up too, because I think he is available, but Alabama's tight end. CJ, why am I blanking all these guys' names? Good God.
You're talking about O.J. Howard?
Howard, yes, perfect, yes. That guy.
Yeah, he's a senior.
He
had a good game.
I love this kid, though. Everything I love. I just picture him being, first, second round. If he falls below that, my God.
Yeah, I don't know how he falls below that. You're looking at a guy that just showed you something he's been doing all year, but just once again, this is a tremendous play by him. Lots of talk by Dabo Swinney about Alabama after the game, too. I wonder if, Nick Saban retires. This is where he's going.
You think he's going to retire?
No, I'm not saying he retires this year. I'm talking about in a few years or whatever. You think Dabo Swinney leaves Clemson to go to Alabama and be the coach there? I
thought this was where Jeff Fisher was going to go.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh man, I don't know if his credentials can get him in there, but maybe. Yeah,
Man,
the most
he does know a
losing
ton of
coach
people,
in the
though.
NFL.
You know.
Do you know Jeff Fisher walks into a room and he commands attention? He commands the room. I mean, I'm sure he'll just walk into the administration's office and say, "Look, this is my job. Give me my contract." Okay, sir, here you go. That mustache is just so intimidating, guys. I mean, come on. But I don't know. It's Sweeney. I mean, he's definitely a name now that people are really paying attention to compared to maybe even before this game. I think people thought, well, we'll see. But now he's a big name.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I don't know that he'd go back to college, though. I mean, I could see him taking some kind of coordinator job in the NFL before he even thought about going to college or anything like that, or maybe just retiring outright. I don't know, for a guy that's been in the league that long, I just can't see it for him. I mean, I could see Chip Kelly going somewhere, obviously, but not him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where Chip Kelly's headed. I think he's going back to where he's the most successful. But, who's going to take him?
Is what's his name, Boulware? The guy that was like huge for Clemson on defense, the guy he won the MVP. Is he available?
Hold on, I'm checking. He is a senior, so he will be out.
Oh, man.
How much his stock just went up after this game. I mean, you win an award like that, people are paying a little bit more attention after this kind of thing.
Agreed. I mean, there's just so many impact players, and that shows you why these two teams were in this position, because of all those great players. And once again, I mean, it goes to prove that Alabama's defense is just unbelievable. And they didn't win the game, but they controlled a lot of the first half, and they still made turnovers and still made things happen for them, even though they did end up in the losing end. I still very much impressed with them, and how can you not be? They do this every single year. Goes back to that coaching staff, Nick Saban, and the players that they get in this system. So,
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, that's just so amazing about it, is that they had to overcome so much early on. You're going, oh man, they're making too many mistakes. Their head's not in this. What are they doing? And then all of a sudden, bam. The halftime comes, they make the adjustments, it's there, and I just, to me, it's really just amazing, like, honestly.
What do you guys think about Jalen Hurts? I mean, I think that, with being a freshman coming in, playing in this type of game, I just think that he's got a high ceiling, though. I mean, right now, you kind of see those freshman blues happen with him, but man, I think that playing these type of games is going to evolve him into being maybe one of the better quarterbacks in college football, possibly. I'm not saying he is going to be, but I'm just kind of impressed in the way he handled himself in this game.
I mean, it's still yet to be seen. Obviously, like we were saying earlier, they were definitely protecting him and having him get rid of the ball instead of trying to force it in there, and that's kind of how he's played all year. Is just being very careful, which is fine. It's just I would like to see him be able to take that next step. But obviously, when you're in Alabama, quarterback is not the first thing you think of when you think of an Alabama star.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many Alabama guys, other than is McCarron from there?
AJ McCarron.
Right? Yeah, so other than when McCarron was in the playoffs last year because Andy Dalton got hurt, you hardly ever hear about Alabama quarterbacks. It's just they're if they even make it to a team in the league, they're perennial backups.
But
so
just to show you, I mean, the only Jets quarterback that hasn't seen the field in the last 5 years was an Alabama grad. Greg McElroy could not find himself under the field, but everyone else could.
God, I remember McElroy. Is he the one that won both the national titles? Back to back, or a year after?
Yeah, I believe so. All I know is he's set himself up. He's now on ESPN.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, it's just proven. See, why don't people look at Texas A&M quarterbacks the same way? They don't. They continue putting them guys to starter, and they put the Alabama guy.
Ryan Tannehill could have been the starter in a playoff game, so you can't really,
Well, he could have been. He also could have got his brains beat in like, Matt Moore did. So.
Yeah, he could have. They're even checking concussion protocol to see if they put him back in the game too fast. So,
You think?
So apparently that entire time that he was sitting there on the bench, that was enough for them. I don't know like what they're.
Well, I'm sure they sat him on the bench and went, "Who's winning the game? The Steelers." Okay, you're good.
Yeah, playoffs are different than regular season. We all know this.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take a back seat to that a little bit.
Apparently, so far, the regular season is intriguing and the playoffs are boring as hell. That's been the difference so far. Thank God that there was a game today. The national championship saved this weekend of football.
And you're not lying. You really are not. And at least in this game, we weren't talking about all the things off the field included inside the game. So, yeah, it's nice. College football, thank you for this breath of fresh air.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. You can't really hate on this game like we can on the NFL stuff. That's why I kind of been dragging our feet about getting over there, because it's all just controversy, chaos after games for some teams, and
well, it has to be because the games were junk. There wasn't a single game that hit the fourth quarter and you went, "All right, here we go."
Well, the Giants and Packers was there for part of the quarter.
Oh, the first half. The first half was closed. By the fourth quarter, it was over. It's like right. I don't know if I paid attention to anything in a fourth quarter in any of these games.
That's why sometimes the team that's kind of been going further at this point is the one that it's crazy though, because of you expect it in one of the games because you're playing your third string quarterback, but the other three, it's so weird. So I guess great win for Clemson. The ACC gets vengeance on the SEC after a year after Alabama won, and now the SEC gets to complete their terrible year that they had, and they can move it on. So, I would say, we talked about the game feeling long for you. Do you think there's going to be a point where the NCAA says, maybe we do need to install some of these things that the NFL is doing to make the game a little bit shorter, or like you said, Randy, they don't care?
Not a chance. They don't care. Like I also said in the chat, the NCAA cares about money. Period. It's money before good competition or fair competition or us. If they want the money, they're going to fit as many commercials in as humanly possible, and they don't care.
Good God, you couldn't get enough of those. I felt like every 10 seconds was commercial. It's like, good, jeez.
That's the way it works.
Please let us actually watch the game. or just anything but a commercial at this point.
What they need to do is just to save us all some time, just, a quarter of the screen, just have commercials running the full time, and then just give us the other part.
Do the picture-in-picture?
Yeah, just do picture-in-picture. Give us commercials. Every once in a while, in between plays, I'll look up and watch a Tide commercial. Then the next, play after, I'll watch whatever else you want to put on there. I don't care. Oh, look, the play's over. Okay, the play's over. Extra points coming. Okay, Viagra. Okay, next.
So when do you think college football starts implicating like the way they have it in soccer, where they have ads going all the way around the field at all times?
I feel like if they wanted to do that, they would have done it by now.
It's going to be a couple years, and the sidelines aren't going to be white. They're going to be moving ads.
Oh, and look, he's knocked out of bounds over the Pepsi sign. Well, there we go.
Well, I mean, that's how it is in soccer because they don't have the they only get basically like 3 opportunities to have commercials.
Yeah.
So,
I love it.
It would be great, though. I love to see it. Like, you go to an NCAA stadium and, like the Louisville one's going to have, like, Papa John's on it, so you just see a bunch of Papa John's, like, everywhere.
I just want to see, like, did his foot step out of bounds at the Dr. Pepper's, logo, or did he go out at the, NTBBA,
That's exactly how it's going to be.
Oh, this is a controversy already. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I definitely see it, going that way eventually because, like you said, they don't care about us. They don't care about the game, competition. It's about getting that moolah, and that's the only way you're going to get it.
Yeah, certainly. I want to say thank you to the College Football Savage Facebook group. They let us put the little the speaker thing in there. If you heard me typing this, because I'm building the post for the website as we talk here. But yeah, it's this was I'm just glad this game was good. We got to enjoy the ending of the college football season. I mean, it's hard to do these things when you go, okay, let's talk about the season, I guess, as a whole. Do you feel like when you go back and look at these games now, did they get it right with the Final Four? Or do you there were so many people talking about, oh, Penn State should have been in. Look at how Ohio State lost. Is this all about, rose-tinted glasses at that point, or do you feel like they got the right 4 in there?
Well, I still don't think Ohio State should have been in there. I still believe conference championships should mean something in college football. Obviously, it's a lot different for basketball because so many teams get in, but conference champions are guaranteed in that. But to me, this almost was a backtrack year. This was a year where it was like, well, we didn't need 4, we just needed 2. But let's skip the boring semifinal games that we had, and let's just have Clemson and Alabama. So it's just how things are going to work. It's sometimes we're going to have more than 4 deserving teams, and some years we're going to come down to the end of it and go, well, really, there were just the 2.
Yeah, and if you're not a fan of the playoff system, this is your year to celebrate and say, yeah, we didn't need those other 2 games because this, championship game was enough. It was exciting. Those other ones sucked. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to be the case every year. I think every year you're going to have different levels. You're going to have years like this that kind of suck, and then years that are like, oh my God, those games were too awesome. And the other 3 teams that didn't make it into these playoffs would have been better if we had an 8-game, playoff. All that kind of thing will go on. Trust me, it's going to be an ongoing debate. At the end of the day, this just was not the year for it. But I have a hard time believing that this is not a good system. I still, like Randy, I still think Penn State deserved to be in there over Ohio State. I kept saying Ohio State was going to be in there no matter what because it's about money at the end of the day, like we just got through ranting about. But still, I think I can't complain if the most important game is the best game. That's what ended up happening. So I think this game kind of made me forget about those other 2 games, to be honest with you. I love this one.
Yeah, and as great as it would have been if, Michigan and Florida State was a first round of a 8-game or 8-team playoff, and so was USC and Penn State, it doesn't take away from how great those bowl games ended up being. And I don't think any of those 4 teams would have held a candle to Alabama and Clemson the way they finished. But it's just to the point. It's like just because the playoffs are just for the top 4 teams, and that adds all this debate stuff, doesn't mean the other bowl games don't matter. Right. To me, the national championship game was the best game of the bowl season. The Rose Bowl was the second best. It wasn't about the other playoffs, and the Rose Bowl did not get diminished because it wasn't part of the national championship.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, this really was a bowl season to kind of forget, honestly, except for that
Yes.
Rose Bowl and the Orange Bowl. Other than that, like, he really didn't have these many great games that you usually think of when you think about college football.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. Very true.
But, I mean, anything else you guys, like, when you think back at this college football season, you go, okay, this is something I'm going to remember outside of this game, just a team that's, I mean, all these group of 5 teams that everybody was saying, oh, they're going to finally make it this year. They don't, Western Michigan can't win the bowl game at the end. You had a lot of these other teams kind of falter. What did you kind of think about this? Is this, with all that being said, Randy, you didn't get to comment on this, even though other than making the joke that you made, which was kind of funny. But this leads to them thinking about that group of 5 playoff. Do you think that they're kind of justified now? Oh, well, we had a team go undefeated, we still didn't get in. That means we'll never get in, so we need to have this group of 5 playoff at this point.
Well, it's the way I look at it. If you really want your own playoff, then you're no longer Division I. If you feel like you need your own playoff system and your own championship, then you're no longer Division I. So Division I will just be the 5 power conferences, and they will have their national championship. And then your next 5 will be Division II, and they will have their own championship. And then what is Division II, or the FCS, I guess is what it's called now, they would be Division III. They would have their own championship. And you can come up with whatever rules you want and change everything. I have no problem with that if you want to do that. But if you're going to want to have your own playoffs system, then you're not allowed at all into the bigger group. You are your own entity now. And if they want to do that, I have zero problem with it. And to be honest, I wouldn't be completely against it.
What do you think, Gary? We kind of talked about this a little bit, but
no, we talked about it, and I get Randy's point here. I think that this situation kind of sucks for them, but I mean, they kind of have to understand if they want to be treated differently, then they're going to get treated differently. And they can't expect to have any complaints or whine and say, well, our team was better than some of these other Division I teams and blah, 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 blah. I just think that, if you're asking for separation, and you want to be different, then don't cry when you're treated that way. So I get it, though. I understand they kind of feel like they're never going to get their due, and they probably won't. I'm sorry, they probably won't get their due. But this is just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I think that they won't even they won't actually do it because this is it's one of those where I just think that they'll think about exactly what Randy just said. They'll think about, well, are we really Division I anymore? Even though we would get our own championship, it's not like they're going to go, oh, well, hey, now we're going to have a Power 5 champion against Group of 5 champion. They're not going to do that. Unless they do it as like the first game of the season next year or something like that. They're not going to do it during the season at the end and go, oh, let's add another game just for the hell of it, too. Mm-hmm. I just don't. So for me, I just don't really see the point in it other than unless you just really want that money that's going to come with it and just want the extra attention. I know, but the reason why it's a divide, obviously, that's happening with, because it's like, okay, well, we get money, but we're also going to be like, I guess, I don't know. I almost want to say like the difference between we're going to be the conference championship game to the Super Bowl is what we're going to be. oh, cool, you get a nice little warm-up before we watch the game that really matters. Are people ever really going to take it seriously? That's the thing. And
Well, I think
does
so.
that make it
I
worth
mean,
it for you?
when you think about it, they're not divided yet, and people are still going to watch the FCS if they're that into college football, and that's
I don't know,
even
but
farther down.
FCS is a lot harder to watch during the season. You can watch a lot of these
Oh yeah,
teams'
well,
games.
but you have to think about it. It's like I have a good friend that I've worked with for about 6-7 years now. He went to Eastern Washington. They're one of the powerhouses in the FCS, and they won the championship a few years ago. And he's, yeah, we're number one. I went, well, you're number 137. Right. However many teams are in the FBS. So that's what I always joked about. Is the best team in FCS is I rank them behind everybody in Division One. I always flip him that kind of crap. But so obviously trying to watch that many college football games is the same with college basketball. Like other than Gonzaga, can you really name 2 or 3 other teams that are in that conference? Like, no, unless you live in the Northwest and you know that division or that conference pretty well. Just there's too many teams. So what they're trying to do and what their idea is just to get that main stage at the end of the season. Because even though Western Michigan went undefeated and faced Wisconsin and lost, and we had Boise State have a really good year and end up losing badly to Baylor, how many times did you watch anybody else in their conferences during the regular season? So I don't think, even if they split, it's not going to change anything.
I think other than Boise State, I mean, Western Michigan, I think there wasn't like a lot of times where they were on where you could really see them.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's not going to change it. So them splitting is not going to take them out of the spotlight because they never were.
Oh, they probably might be in the spotlight more because, I mean, I don't know that ESPN will take them because they can hardly afford what they got right now. But, I mean, I'm sure that there will be a TV, whether it's FS1 or some other TV sports station that says, oh, we'll take that. And then guess what? They get more of their games on TV.
So as a sports fan, what would you rather have? The way that we have now? Because as I'm thinking about this, I'm just having ideas flow. So have the system as we have it now, where it's going to be tough for these bottom 5 conferences to ever get in a national championship. We're going to get our Western Michigans versus Wisconsin. Or, so you have your national championship on Monday. Obviously, that's the same weekend as the wild card, and it's how that sets up. Well, when the games are set up on Sunday, it's what? I'm going to say Pacific time because that's where I live, but it's what? 10:30 in the morning and 2, I think is how it was this year. So say at 5:30 on a Sunday, you get the secondary championship, and you would have got Western Michigan and Boise State potentially in their championship game for that division. So you get one extra game of football during all of this right before the national championship.
I mean, I'm not going to say no to more football, but I just wonder if they're really going to feel like it's worth it for us to no longer be really considered part of the regular national championship portion of it.
It all comes down to what is going to get you more money. Having to be the absolute best to get invited to the Cotton Bowl, or having your own championship game. What is going to bring your school more money? Because like we said before, the NCAA is all about money.
Yeah, and the Cotton Bowl is more appealing, I think, for at least, when it comes to the money. So that's the big important thing to note.
Yeah, I mean, but let's think about it like this. Does the NCAA really care that much when they're letting the Power 5 run the playoff, and they're going to let probably the Group of 5 run the playoff too? I mean, just saying. I think they just will be like, oh, hey, more games, whatever. But at the end of the day, it'll be the Group of 5's decision. So,
Be interesting.
Well, we do have to move on here from talking about this to talking about these wild card games. As Randy mentioned, I mean, the games themselves wound up being blowouts towards the end, especially you knew with Connor Cook starting for the Raiders, they were going to, maybe they last a little bit considering who's playing quarterback on the other end. But Houston winds up winning. Then you have the Lions wind up losing big to Seattle. I mean, then you have, what's the other? Miami stayed in the game. They were pretty much out of the game from the beginning, almost. Yep. They let Antonio Brown score twice really fast, and I mean they tried. I give them credit. Matt Moore took that vicious hit and everything, but just we're never going to get back into it. And the Giants were the ones that gave it the best shot against the Packers for, I want to be fair and say 3 quarters, and then the 4th quarter the Packers absolutely decimated them when the defense was tired. And, then Eli Manning didn't help either, pulling an Eli Manning pretty much.
Oh, stop it. It was not his fault at all.
He throws interceptions, it doesn't help that when you throw interceptions at all.
He made a mistake, but, honestly, Eli, I hate Eli, but Eli actually played decently compared to what I think he has in the last, month. Where he was very prone to throwing interceptions and just not being very good. It was these receivers who, I'm not trying to make the controversy, I'm just saying, let's just talk about the game. They were not on key. Odell Beckham, we're supposed to see this guy float in the
still
air.
Don't have a running game either.
Well, we talk about that, but I think you got to look at the receiver. I mean, they haven't had a run game all year. So that's out of the equation.
I know, but they did. Like the last couple of games, Paul Perkins have been running the ball better.
But I mean, I don't think that you could take away the passing game and then they still win those games. I think the receiving game here with the receivers and the passing game, all of it together has really added up to them winning games. And I look at the guy that's supposed to be floating on air, the guy that we should worship and bow down to as he walks by, Odell Beckham, played like he was in junior high school and just forgot what he was supposed to be doing. He did not have a good game. He definitely spread that out, and these other guys, Shepard and, of course, Cruz, just all of them did not look like they cared in the second half. And even in the first half, I think they were excited, and they just couldn't do it. Then after that, they're just kind of like, ugh. I'm not saying this about the controversy. I'm just saying these guys just did not play well, and I think that affected Eli Manning. That, of course, they couldn't have a running game because they played catch-up the entire game. They would have ran the ball, they would have been helping the Packers. So I don't know what was going on there. I could say it was Miami Gate if you want, but I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day... Wait,
hold on. You are not putting a gate on that. That is not a gate. That is not a gate. My God. You know how I feel about putting gates on stupid things like that. Like, please don't. Oh, my God. Watergate was freaking in the 1970s. Everything after that is not a gate. Stop.
Okay, I'm just going to say something that Randy, you may not agree with that, but Randy's going to agree with this. At the end of the day, the New York Giants allowed themselves to play into Aaron Rodgers' hands. And Aaron Rodgers says, okay, you guys don't want to score touchdowns, I will.
Well, okay. I mean, also, you got to admit that Hail Mary is also really deflating. But
well, yeah, but I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers. Who in this league, and I hate Aaron Rodgers, who in this league can't do that?
Why are we talking about Deflategate now? Where did that come from?
God. No.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I got to get these 2 points out. For one, Sean, I'm sorry. I know your hatred for Eli Manning, and I understand that he's not an elite quarterback and never was, and Hall of Fame talk is a little much. I'm not into that crowd either.
He'll get just like Troy Aikman, he'll get Hall of Fame because of the championships.
But his interception came with 2 minutes to go when you were down by 25.
He had another one, though, didn't he? I thought he had 2.
He had the 1. But the beginning of this game, he played, I thought, really well. Obviously, the drop passes hurt these drives, dropped him down to field goals instead of touchdowns. There was one early on where it would have got him a first down and got him into field goal range that they then had to punt. So obviously the drop passes hurt, and I'll get to that in a second. To me, the turning point of this game was not the Hail Mary, even though that was a crazy play, and yes, it's deflating, and going into the locker room after a play like that is tough. But the Giants bounce back. They get that touchdown in the second half. The Packers, go back in 3 or 4 plays to answer them right back. And then Bobby Rainey has the dumbest moment of the season, where he catches the kickoff at the 3 or 4 yard line, right at the out of bounds line. And instead of just walking over and catching it and letting his foot go out of bounds, which would have still been a penalty because we've seen that play called multiple times this season, he kept his feet in. He actively tried to stay in bounds to make this catch. So instead of getting the ball at the 40, they got the ball at the 3 or 4, 3 and out, they punt, the Packers score on every drive from then on. So to me, that was the game changer. But obviously, you have to look back at the first half. You have to look at the drops. Odell Beckham obviously had a terrible game here. So did Victor Cruz. And they do not help the offense. And that's the problem. When Aaron Rodgers struggles at the beginning, you have to create that gap. Because somebody like him is going to get red hot. He has been amazing the last 2 or 3 months to the point of being in the MVP talks, even though he really struggled the first half of the season. That's how good of a second half Aaron Rodgers has. So if you're settling for 3 points or short punts, it's just calling for disaster. Now, as far as the drop passes go, no, them going to Miami had nothing to do with it. It's their day off. They can do what they want. Unfortunately, this is 2017, and everybody has to get into everybody's business. And if you're not Tom Brady huddled inside your house with Supermodel on your day off and nobody knows what you're doing, everyone's going to freak out and make it a controversy. And I think that controversy definitely got into the heads of Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard and Victor Cruz and all of them. And to be honest, if anything got to them, it was them wanting to prove all of the naysayers wrong, and then they overtried. And for anybody that's ever done an athletic event or a sporting event, that's the worst thing that you can do ever, is overthink it and overtry. You see Aaron Rodgers in the pocket, calm, cool, collected. Giants defenders are running all around him. He's cool as a cucumber, and then throws a touchdown pass. Odell Beckham is going, I'm going to show those guys, and all his muscles are tense, and he drops the ball. So I think that's where it came from. Not that they went to Miami and hung out on a boat and actually enjoyed the end of the regular season before they got really into this playoff game. It was the fact that everyone else made it a huge deal, and then they wanted to go, no, I'm going to show you it wasn't a big deal. And that is what created these drop passes, is the over trying to prove yourself.
I agree. And, here's another thing, too. I think it's a kind of a funny tweet, but the rapper that was on this boat with these guys, or these receivers, said, during the game, tweeted out that none of the DBs were on the trip, so they weren't on the boat. So, it's something else that you got to look at in this game is, I think overall, sure, Odell Beckham, Shepard, Cruz, they have a lot of work ahead of them because they've got to now show people that now we're credible, we are focused. But in this game, you can just obviously tell, like Randy just said, they were trying too hard. They were trying to do things that they just were not able to, and that confused and upset them and angered them and irritated them. All these emotions are running through them. They can't do their job correctly because they're not completely focused in. On the other side of the ball in the defense, wow, sure. First half, they did a good job making sure that Aaron Rodgers was in check. But as that game went on, they got tired, of course, because what was not happening. The offense was not keeping the ball. But at the same time, this is supposed to be a defense and probably one of the best defenses in the NFC conference. They didn't play like it. They were getting worn out, I'm sure. But I think at the end of the day, they still were underwhelming. And that's not good, especially for New York, who spent so much money on them. They did not do enough to make sure that they bailed out their offense. And, I don't know what else to say. I think the entire team has to look at themselves and say, we lost this as a team. I don't think it was just this as a, trip to Miami for the receivers. No, it was about the fact that this entire team played underwhelming football.
Yeah, and Sean, before you chime in, I'm sorry, I just found out that for a short period of time, Wikipedia changed after the national championship. It's been changed back, but for a brief time it said Deshaun Watson is an American football quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. His career ended in 2017 after being drafted by the Browns. I love the internet. Okay, anyway.
That's amazing. I love it. All right, Sean. What do you have to say about this game? How do you feel about everything with the Packers and Giants?
You know what? The better team won in the end. I have no idea if you are hearing this thing about it. I turned the conference call thing on because Brandon was wanting to call, and I guess he's not going to or something. So I'm going to shut it off. Hopefully, you guys are not having to hear the stupid elevator music that is playing in my ears right now. But I should always just from now on just make it to where, oh damn it, now he's in there. Jesus Christ. He calls right when I shut it off too.
Welcome. This service is
Okay,
provided
hold
by
on.
freeconferencecall.com.
There is one other participant in the conference.
Oh, man.
Please announce yourself.
The reason we're trying to get Brandon on the call, everyone, Brandon Bisco being a Giant.
Well, not Brandon. I'm trying to get Mr. Brandon Clapp, who's calling.
Oh, it's a Clapp. Oh, the Brandon Bisco being was calling in. He's a Giants.
Hey, what's up, Brandon? What's up, man?
Man, what a freaking game, man.
We are not getting Brandon over here.
You guys would have to be in the call, I think. Here, I'll message you guys the number while I'm talking to Brandon here. So, Brandon, I mean, what do you think about this game? It was crazy, but amazing that Clemson won.
Oh yeah, it was. It ranks for me right up there with the the '83 Orange Bowl, 2005 National Championship Texas and USC, and it's an all-time classic. It was unbelievable.
I mean,
Watson was amazing.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, 420 yards, throwing that last touchdown. I mean, what do you think is sort of the key to this game? Why do you think Clemson won?
I think the defense kept them in the game early on, and then they just never quit. And I think that Hurt, even though he made some good throws in the game at times, his inability on some drives that could have put the game away to throw the ball, you know what I mean? When his ability to throw the ball on drives that could have put the game away, his inability really cost the Tide.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's the thing. Do you think having the new offensive coordinator had anything to do with that? With Hurts just kind of not in the middle of the game, kind of just not playing like himself?
That's certainly possible. I had came into the game believing that if Clemson could get them into third down and medium to long, that they had an excellent chance to win the game. Because I really didn't believe a lot in Hurt because of he's a freshman. Being able to make those throws. If you look back at the LSU game, that's what kept LSU in the game was his play, poor play at the time, I should say.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the guys had talked about just how Clemson it looked like at the beginning Alabama was just going to run away with this game, and then all of a sudden, second half comes Clemson just comes firing back and everything. I mean, where does this rank, I guess, for to have a big comeback like this and to win in the end that way.
Yeah, it's like I said, man. It's for me. I'm old enough to remember the '83 Orange Bowl, Nebraska and Miami. Nebraska had a comeback in that game. They converted a 4th and 8 late in the game. Actually scored on that 4th and 8 actually to take to tie the game. Well, if they would have kicked the extra point, they would have tied the game. But then they went for 2 and lost. And I think it ranks up right up there with the Rose Bowl in 2005, Texas and USC. Tonight was just an unbelievable game, man. It's always different when it's not your team, so you get to kind of sit back and be a spectator. And those of us who weren't involved with it emotionally, like these are our teams, we got to sit back and spectate one of the best games because of the stage it was on that you're ever going to see.
Yeah, this was an amazing game. Exactly what we can kind of talked about with the 2005 Rose Bowl. Just one of these games you're going to remember for a really, really long time. The performances by a lot of these guys, man, it's just absolutely crazy. Did you watch any of the NFL stuff from over the weekend? I mean,
absolutely.
Anything stand out to you from? I mean, obviously they're all blowouts in the end. But
Aaron Rodgers, that boy is playing at a scary level right now. Ever since he said we could run the table, at first when he said it, when you look back at the way they've been playing, you're like, oh, come on, get out of here. I know you got to believe in yourself. But the way he finished that stretch, and then to see him go out there, because that was a good Giants team, man. That was a good Giants team. And he went out there and literally dismantled them. If I'm a Dallas fan, I'm biting my nails. I've already picked Green Bay to beat Dallas because I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Dallas. I don't know. You're in the chat. You're in the chat group, so you know. I've been kind of on their top hat all season. So I think Dallas is a good team. You're a Dallas fan, so let me ask you, how much confidence can you come into this game knowing that, yeah, you guys are good, you have a Super Bowl caliber running game, but your quarterback is a rookie?
Well, I mean, it's a first time for anything, right? But, unlike Connor Cook, he's been playing this whole year.
That's true.
And he's got a much better team around him. He's got a running back that's been lighting up the league. He's got an offensive line that's going to protect him, a defense that's been improving. So,
Absolutely.
He doesn't have to do everything.
I agree with you. My worry would be Aaron Rodgers versus that secondary, because that secondary hasn't been spectacular all season. I mean, they played really good versus the Giants, that last game in New York. Even though they lost, I think they claimed they had some problems with the Giants tapping into their headsets in that game. That's a concern for me if I was a Dallas fan, man. Knowing that Aaron Rodgers coming in that hot, even though they lost Jordy Nelson, but Jordy Nelson hasn't been their best wide receiver all year. It's been Devontae Adams. So coming in against that quarterback, oh man, I think you'd have to run the ball and dominate the time of possession.
Yeah, well, that's basically what they've been doing all year. So, I mean, they don't have to really do anything different. Just they actually have to be able to execute it. And, I mean, they do have confidence of having tape playing the Packers earlier in the year. Obviously much different than when, the Packers that are around today. But I agree with you on the secondary thing. That's it hasn't been a liability so much because of the way that they play defense. But with Aaron Rodgers, if you're not able to get to him, it can cause you a problem. So,
yeah, I thought they ranked in the bottom 20s in passing yards allowed this year. But a lot of that could, garbage yards with teams having to go in the fourth quarter too. A lot of fans don't look at those type of, things when they look at the stats. So another thing, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looked unbelievable last week against Miami, who was a very hot team, even though they had lost that game to New England. That New England loss, I kind of gave the Dolphins a pass for because they really couldn't improve their playoff standing by winning that game. And I wasn't sure how hard the Dolphins actually came out and played that game in New England in Foxborough, where before they had went on that run. I think they went on that run after they beat the Steelers. And the Dolphins were playing excellent football, and then Pittsburgh just annihilated them, picked them apart. However, Big Ben did get that injury. He is in a walking boot. For those who aren't in the chat group, I've picked Kansas City to come out of the AFC pretty much from the beginning of the year. So I was a bit worried about Pittsburgh going in to face my pick, but a little bit more confident now. Kansas City has struggled this season to stop the run, and they did lose their best defensive tackle, I believe, versus Oakland, or it might have been against the Broncos. So I don't know. If Big Ben's not 100%, I think the Steelers are in trouble. If he is, I predict that that's probably going to be the best game of this round of the playoffs.
Oh yeah, certainly. It's going to be. I mean, Packers Cowboys could be, but yeah, Steelers Chiefs is going to be either you get a lot of points scoring or you get little amount of points scoring, but it's going to be entertaining either way. I had the Chiefs too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So hoping that my pick is right, but obviously the Steelers and Patriots would be a lot more entertaining from that perspective. So
yeah, I would give just because I trust Big Ben more in those type of games, those big games, than Alex Smith. I would give the Steelers a better chance of going into Foxborough and beating New England. Because right now it appears it's New England and everybody else. I know, right. And Dallas has played very good this year, but still, I think, in my opinion, it's New England and everybody else. But the thing with Tom Brady is, and the reason I think that the Chiefs could possibly give them problems is Justin Houston and D Ford. Brady does not like to get hit, and when he does start getting hit, we've seen him. He ducks. He'll duck a ghost. So and Kansas City does have an excellent secondary. So,
yeah, I mean that's the thing is Chiefs defense, one of the better ones in the entire league. I mean, not that the Steelers with those linebackers and their front four, they've been able to cause problems too. They just have problems with secondary, which will, if they can make enough blocking for Brady, he can pick them apart. So that's an issue.
That's a problem. And did you see the Dolphins game, the last game of the year, when Malcolm Floyd announced his arrival in New England? That has to be scary for all the other teams in the NFL. You look at them. Because at first, when Gronk went out, everybody kind of like, okay, well, the Patriots are coming back down now. They're going to come back down to the pack. And then they went out and got Malcolm Floyd, and it's like, oh, no, And then he announced his arrival in that Miami game in a pretty big way, so, they're scary.
Yeah, they certainly are. But, man, we got to get to the what do you think of the Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin for the Jags?
I don't know how that's going to work out, man, because, Tom Coughlin just seems like the type of guy that he's used to being in charge. You know what I mean? So how's he going to handle having another coach tell him what to do? You know what I mean? After all them years of being the guy. So that's going to be to me that's a weird relationship. You know, how's it going to work out? Is Tomlin or Coughlin? I'm sorry, Coughlin going to be able to swallow his pride and do what he's told?
Yeah, I mean, especially being in kind of an executive position and not wanting to, he's going to have to take that Parcells approach of once he got to that point, okay, this is my spot, and, do what I'm supposed to do and not get involved.
Is he joining
He's like the executive of like football operations or something like that.
Okay, my fault. That's even more of a issue for me because now, Coughlin, he's a rule by iron hand type of guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I had misread it somehow and thought he was joining the staff. I was like, I don't know how that's going to work at all. But even this is even more because Coughlin seems like the type of dude he wants to have control over everything. You know what I mean? Like you said, is he going to be able to say, okay, this is my spot. I need to let dude run the team how he sees fit.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see if this even helps the Jags. Obviously, they wanted to go in a different direction after having a supposed defensive coach and Gus Bradley. Last thing I'll ask you, just because, this was such a big deal yesterday, what do you think about this whole thing with Odell and the punch in the wall?
Man, I have more of an issue with him going to the yacht than punching the wall. Punching the wall, I can actually see that. I mean, I've boxed, and I've lost some fights in as an amateur, and I want to beat the locker room when I go in, because you're so competitive, you don't want to lose, and so I'm punching the wall, man. I think he needs to learn how to control his anger a little better than that, because what if he had broke his hand and been, had to miss a significant time or something next year? So I don't really have a problem with that. The yacht thing kind of got me. If he came out and bawled like the Odell we used to seeing, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have mattered. But the fact is, you went out and you partied, then you come in and you put in a performance like that. You know what I mean? That's unacceptable. You even took Sterling Shepard with you. Sterling Shepard never did that type of stuff in Oklahoma. And, he got to learn that not only is he their best wide receiver, but he's one of their leaders. You know what I mean? He's grooming these other young wide receivers and even the other younger players that don't necessarily play that position, though. But he's, they're looking at him as a leader. He's a top 5 wide receiver. You know what I mean? So if the team looks at him and they see him doing crazy stuff like that, of course they're going to be like, well, I can do crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to have obviously the veterans that are going to know better, but it's certainly an issue for the younger guys to go, okay, well, this guy's supposed to be a big part of this team, and he's taking people on these yacht. Well, I'm going to do that next year, or whatever. I mean, is Deshaun Watson a Cleveland Brown?
I hope not for his sake. So that's the place quarterbacks go to die.
Right. But I mean, do you think he'll just, okay, they watch his performance, whatever, they go, okay, this is the guy we want now? Or does he go somewhere else? He goes to San Francisco or something?
It's quite possible. I don't have a whole lot of faith in this year's class. He is my one of my top 2 quarterbacks in this class. I really like Patrick Marrone out of Texas Tech. Patrick Mahomes is not your usual Texas Tech product. He's 6'3", 230 pounds. He can sling the ball. He can make every throw on the football field that you need. Where the usual Texas Tech guy, they're not throwing the ball too much further than 10 yards down the field. a lot of screen passes, a lot of stuff like that. Patrick Mahomes is making throws. And I like him. I like Watson. There's a couple other guys that I like, too. I like the kid that's possibly coming out of North Carolina. I haven't heard if he's coming out yet.
Trubisky already came out, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like him. And I think Rudolph went back to Oklahoma State. I wasn't going to say I like him, but I think he went back to Oklahoma State. So, but I do like Watson's prospects as I mean, come on, man. All year long, what were we told about Alabama's defense? Not only was we told that it was great, we were told that it was all-time status. And he went out there and ripped them a new one. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me. If I'm a team and I need a quarterback, I'm looking at that guy.
Good point. All right, Brandon. Well, thank you for calling, man. I always appreciate you. And
hey, I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for letting us know that y'all were live, man. I just wanted to call in and conversate with you, man.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one.
You too, brother.
All right. Well, let's welcome these guys back in. I apologize. I didn't expect a call, so I didn't have everybody in the conference call in here from the start. But hopefully Gary and Randy are back with me. But speaking of the Giants we were just talking about, Jason Pierre-Paul says, "Don't give me a one-year deal. I'm not taking it. Nobody's doing this with 7.5 fingers like I am right now." What do you think about what he has to say? Like, does he deserve to be back at elite status?
For me personally, I think he's a good player, and I think that he's showed that 7.5 fingers could be good enough, but he's got to stay healthy. And that's becoming more of a problem for Pierre-Paul. And if I'm a team that's looking at him, I'm thinking, okay, how much am I paying him, and how many games is he actually going to play? We have the same discussion with lots of players in this league. He's getting older. He's not going to probably be able to play all 16 games for you. It's been obvious. So I think that comes into play. But I do not blame him. Because if the Giants are going to try to say, no, we want to slap on whatever we want to slap on, I wouldn't do it. I'd go and test the waters and see if you can get someone to pay you big money. I mean, hey, if I'm him, I'm hiring Brock Osweiler's agent, getting as much money as I can just in case I don't perform well.
I just love the fact that he basically was going, no one's a big moron like me, and played with fireworks. So I'm not taking a one-year deal. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Wow, I just saw a crazy stat. With a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, Alabama was 97-0 under Nick Saban until tonight.
Wow. That's amazing.
Jeez, think about that. 97-0. Jeez. But yeah, I mean, look, I think he definitely has a right to demand more than a one-year deal. The Giants don't have to be the team that pays him that. He certainly made Olivier Vernon better. He made that defensive line better. They're certainly missing something without him there. Perhaps, you never know, they get a bit more on Rodgers. Perhaps he doesn't get to dance around as much because you got two guys killing it instead of just, Vernon and guys kind of coming up through the middle. But you'll never know. You'll have to see for next year. But I do think he's played well enough to say, look, don't be signing me to these one-year deals every year. But I wonder if this is going to be somebody besides the Giants paying him. And also, speaking of getting paid, apparently Matthew Stafford's contract is a thing, and he says it's not up to him, up to somebody else and the Lions organization. You think, obviously there's not somebody out there right now that the Lions can just go grab to replace him, so you think he is re-signed by default, or I don't know if he's asking for an extension.
I don't know if it's even by default. I think you would really want him re-signed. Yes, the end of the season fell apart, but so did his hand. I think you could use that as the big reason why he struggled at the end of the season. Not that, he's a Lion and that's what they do. So, yeah, I would re-sign him. I thought he had a great year.
Yeah, it's hard not to, want to re-sign a guy that's definitely giving your team an opportunity at least to get to the playoffs. And sure, they haven't had all the success they wanted, but they've yet to surround this guy with a complete cast. And even with Megatron, they still weren't able to do it completely. And then even without Megatron, he got you to the playoffs and still cannot surround him with the cast that he needs to make a run in a Super Bowl. So they've tried. I'm not saying they haven't tried, but offensively, I look at that and they've yet to give him a runner that's going to give him consistent, running games and give him an opportunity to do what he needs to do. So I think he's a definite sign. If they don't sign him, they've either drafted somebody they're just falling in love with or something else is going on.
Very possible. I just don't see why you wouldn't. The offense functions because of him, and if he didn't have the thing with the hand, who knows, right? You have to take that into account. The hand was bothering him. The hand was the problem. So, I think you can kind of take that as an anomaly and go, all right, hey, let's get this taken care of. Let's come back next year and be better. I think you guys haven't gotten to talk about the. Honestly, for me, when I saw this go down, I made a joke with you, Gary, about if the Jaguars play well, do you think that he gets appointed as the coach? And you're like, oh, no way. And I was kind of feeling that way too, but that's because the guy that gets put in the front office was supposed to be the coach. Well, they get the best of both worlds, I guess, if you call it that. Doug Marrone, who did a wonderful job with Kyle Orton in Buffalo. And Blake Bortles did play much better in the last 2 games when he was there. Helps when you have an offensive-minded guy. And you get Tom Coughlin as I think he runs the football operations now for the Jags. Is next year now going to be the year to be excited about the Jags again?
I think they're starting off right. When you add a football mind like Tom Coughlin, you're already giving yourself an advantage. And you mentioned with Brandon about, Bill Parcells. That's a good example. These kind of guys have been known to build teams that were successful. And Tom Coughlin did it with the New York Giants, who before he got there were just so average it wasn't funny. And so I look at this opportunity and seeing some of the talent that they already have in Jacksonville. They have already built up a little bit of it. But now with a great mind like his in place, in that draft room with you, in the meetings talking about free agents and what they're going to do with the system, I think that this is a great marriage. I think Marrone is fine. I think, we just saw him going because that's what NFL teams do. Oh, you weren't successful. We had bigger aspirations. You're fired without even a second thought. And I just think that, hey, if they like Marrone, which I don't have a problem with him, I never really did. I just thought that, they were going to can him anyway. This is good. This is a good situation. Now they're going to continue on with what their plan is and just get a better mind in there with working with them.
Well, listen, the big knock on Marrone was he ran away from Buffalo. Well, we've started to learn that that's no longer a knock on Marrone. It's just Buffalo's a messed up situation. So shows how smart he is. Add in the Coughlin knowledge and all of that, and you would think they have a lot of the pieces in place to be that team that I thought they were going to be this year. I'm a little shy to say that because obviously I look like a moron. saying that they were going to win the division this year. And it really just still comes down to, does Blake Bortles finally figure things out, or have we seen the best of him? And if we've seen the best of him, are they going to replace him? And if they can, what do they do from there? They have a lot of young pieces on offense and defense, and I think with the right mindset and the right people in charge that this could be a dangerous team. I'm just, like I said, a little gun shy at the moment to say that, yes, next year will be the year.
Yeah. I just, I lean towards it being a better year for sure. Now, I'm not, I'm like Randy, I'm afraid to say they're going to be great like we expected them to be. But with Marrone, with Coughlin in this equation, I just think it's a new beginning, and they've got the pieces in place almost. Not all of them, but I think they've got enough in place where I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't a night and day, at least better team, even if they don't have it on their record.
Yeah, I think definitely they are. And the number one thing that we talked about during the season was that, okay, Blake Bortles obviously having problems with his mechanics. He's not the same guy. Something's going on in his head. He didn't go and work out with people in the offseason like he did the year before. He needed somebody that's going to take away some of that pressure from him and help make it easier for him. And Doug Marrone is that guy. Doug Marrone is the guy that's going to be able to, okay, look, I'm offensive minded. I'm going to start figuring out how to make this work so that I don't know whether it's going to be Chris Ivory or TJ Yeldon back there, how to get the best out of him. Allen Robinson, bring him back into, a guy that you want to be throwing the ball to, not only for that, but, make him fantasy relevant again. Have Allen Hurns be that duo. Julius Thomas be that tight end that we saw in Denver. These weapons that you have, they finally become important pieces again. And number one, Blake Bortles gets his head back right. I think that helps. Now, my only issue is, does Tom Coughlin, does he get like Bill Parcells was, or is he still there with the Dolphins, where you say, okay, look, I'm 70 years old. I can coach this team, but can they really have a future with me as a coach at my age? Really not. So why not just take this opportunity to be in this position and make the most out of it? Or does he, let's say that the Jaguars are losing like they were before. Does he pull a Pat Riley? Are you guys worried about that at all?
No, I think he stays in the office. I think obviously with the amount of different teams that wanted his services as a head coach, for him to take an office job just kind of shows that that's what he really wants. To do everything you'd have to do as a head coach, he knows that time has passed for him. And a nice cushy office seat is where he's going to spend the next few years.
Exactly. And, this is what he loves to do, is to build a team. And, I'm sure he loves interacting with the players, and he can to an extent. But at least now at his age, he can enjoy some of the fruits of building the team and getting a chance to watch them succeed.
Yeah, certainly. But I think anything else that we need to for sure cover, we'll do our predictions for. Well, Randy, you weren't here for the show on Friday. What is your playoff predictions after the round we just went through, divisional going forward? What are your predictions?
Well, I am proud to say that I did get all four of these games right, even though there wasn't really.
Yeah,
there was
all
one
three
game.
of us got them. That's
yeah,
good.
Well, there was one game that you could debate a little bit, so I'm not even that proud of it. But the rest of the way going forward, I have New England and Kansas City facing in the AFC Championship game, with New England beating the Chiefs, and I actually have the Atlanta Falcons beating Seattle and Green Bay beating your guys' Cowboys. I'm sorry. And then Atlanta going to the Super Bowl with the Patriots winning. That is my
We get it. You can't have angry pregnant wife. So
yeah, I knew it.
Okay.
I knew that.
No, it's just they're red hot. And listen, the Cowboys have had an excellent year. You guys know that I think the hype train on Prescott's a little crazy at times, and I voiced my opinion on it. But he's had an amazing season, but he is a rookie. And the playoffs are a whole different animal, especially when you're going up against somebody like Aaron Rodgers and trying to keep up with him. But the reason why I like Atlanta so much is, again, I haven't been on the hype train for the Falcons all season, but the fact that no matter what they do, the rest of their games this season will be in a dome, I think plays a huge factor in that too.
You know, did you have in your final, you said the Patriots or Falcons winning in your Super Bowl?
I had the Patriots winning.
Okay, so me and you had the same Super Bowl. And the difference is I did pick Dallas to beat Green Bay and then to lose to the Falcons. And my thought process in that is I kind of feel like, I think the Cowboys are going to come into that Green Bay game hyped, and they're going to play a good game. Then they're going to go against the Falcons, and then you're going to start seeing those rookie tendencies starting to take place. And somewhere along the line, being a rookie is going to affect them. The Falcons just score too many points. So we may have a little differences in that, but I think, I kind of on point, and, the Patriots are the one team that I look at and say it's going to take some kryptonite to take them down.
The only thing that I can hope for is 4 much better games than we had this last weekend.
And I think we're going to get them. I mean, I can't wait till Thursday, to be honest with you. I want to sit down and predict these. The only reason we're not doing that is because we have another show, of course, but also we'll know more about injuries. We'll know more if, Jordy Nelson's going to be, better. Guys like that, those are the important components I'm picking these games.
Unfortunately, Jordy with 2 broken ribs is
on a hit that
good.
should have been called hitting a defensive receiver, but, they didn't call that either. But, I don't want to get into it too much, but I definitely think this is one of those where perhaps the rookie thing isn't going to be that big a deal because of the team that he has around him. But we'll say, and they've already played the Packers already. It's not like they haven't played this team before.
I will say this, watch out, Cowboys, if Jordy Nelson gets on the phone and says, I got 2 broken ribs, John Cena, how can I heal in 3 days?
Well played.
And then he plays the game. So,
and I will say, listen, it's not that. Yes, they've played Green Bay before, and that quote unquote could help. It's not. To me, it's like I just talked about with Odell Beckham, where you have to worry of Dak maybe trying too hard. Now, yes, you know that they're going to protect him with the play calling, and not as easy as what we just saw Alabama do with their quarterback, but they're not going to put him in terrible situations if they have to. It's just, if Aaron Rodgers starts out hot, does Dak then tighten up and go, oh my God, now I have to do what Aaron's doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the prospect of if they get, down a little bit and it's the second half, and I've been reading all these things now where people are like, well, if it gets desperate, you got to put in Tony Romo.
Stop it.
And I'm telling you, I wonder if that is going to cross anybody's mind at all during that game.
The only reason that happened is because they played him for that one drive, week 17, and it changed everything.
No. They were saying...
I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Totally joking on that.
Let me tell you something. That has been something on every freaking... I think every time that, the Cowboys podcast do this thing they call Feed the Beast, where they do this, where they basically play the game of, well, when... if at all do you ever put in Romo, and every single time somebody says, well, if you're down by like 10 points or more in the fourth quarter, you really got to think about it. And I'm just like, man, you guys are football people, and y'all are really thinking about you got to switch quarterbacks at that point. Like, at that point, you got to let Tony Romo play the rest of the playoffs because you pretty much demoralized Dak. So, you need to be careful what you wish for at that point.
Yeah. No, we could talk about the quarterback situation all day, but I think at the end of this, day of this game, it's going to come down to how well does Zeke play. It's all about Zeke. If Zeke plays at least well, He doesn't have to go game busters and bust out, 200 yards plus rushing. But if he can at least play well enough to make their Packers respect him and what they're doing, Dak Prescott's going to be playing corners that, some of those guys are actually safeties at cornerback for the Green Bay. So it's not like, this is the New York secondary. They're playing a secondary that's there, but it's not exactly elite. So Dak Prescott will be saved if Zeke plays well. If Zeke does not play well and it's all on Dak's shoulders, I could see the disaster starting to take place.
Certainly, but we'll get into that more on the Friday morning show. Until then, everybody, hopefully you got to watch that amazing national title game, and enjoy the next couple of days, and we'll be back soon. Later, everyone.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.